Oh my God. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. I'm sorry for a blast of sound right as I came on. Give me a second. I will fix that. You today come before TikTok. And so I have to set up my TikTok live. For those of you who didn't see my mini live yesterday, I was explaining why I decided against doing a live yesterday with news. I was incredibly exhausted. I've said that I think so many times in the past couple of days and the past week. I've been incredibly exhausted and it finally echoed on me. And so yesterday I was just not in a condition to do a live. I just wanted to sleep and stare at the ceiling and just literally do nothing. And so I had to do that. Since hi Ben, hi Gio, hi Spunek, hi Armin, hi Carolyn, hi Sean, hi Joe, hi Theo, hi Joe, hi Charles, hi Prexis, hi Lauren, hi everybody, hi Karina. So basically I'm sorry for not doing the news yesterday. I really needed to take a break for a second. Otherwise I would have probably just, I don't know, fainted or something, because honestly I'm just a little bit, and this is not a poor me statement. This is just more I'm fine, but I'm just super incredibly overworked. And I'm very happy because this is an environment I thrive in. I really, really love being busy. I really love having a lot to do. This is kind of I'm a workaholic in that way. I either do something at 1,000,000% or I just don't do it at all. And so this is kind of how I treat all of my work, right? And this has become a job, but one that is really fulfilling and one that I really love. But at the same time, I'm the kind of person where I don't press the brakes very often. And sometimes I really need to. And so this past week, there were two voiceovers that were beyond the schedule. So those were the two new voiceovers that were added to the schedule with United 24. I've also been working on some very interesting interviews and getting a hold of people to interview. I've been doing all of this sort of I've been running like a hamster in the wheel, and I haven't even been able to check my DMs or anything. Yesterday, I just crashed. I just crashed and I really needed to crash. So now I'm feeling much better. Good news is documenting Russia. Congratulations on the retweet from Zelensky. Oh, so it's not a retweet. It's a rubric that I do on his social media weekly, but well, it's been kind of all over the place. Not necessarily. It's supposed to be weekly, but it's been a little. I think it's going to become more than weekly. I don't know yet. It's TBD. And again, one of the couple of things that I'm freaking out about. But so basically, yeah, I'm working on some very interesting interviews behind the scenes. I'm working on some incredible stuff that I'm really excited to share, but can't as of yet. Hi, Kayla. Hi, Gap. Hi, Lucky Skill. So hi, everybody on TikTok. Hi, everybody on Twitter. Hi, everybody on Twitch. And hi, everybody on YouTube. I'm so sorry. I might not be able to read everybody's name and say hello today, simply because the chat is moving a little faster than normal on TikTok, or a little faster, and I have a lot more to say in a period of time that's usual, So basically, yes, that's what happened yesterday. We're going to do a full news breakdown today. There are if all goes well, Tork interview part 2 is going to come out either tonight. Thank you so much, Karina. Welcome to the spy layer. But basically, if everything goes well, then Tork interview part 2 is coming out either tonight or is coming out early before noon tomorrow. That depends on how fast it's going to upload to YouTube and how late I can stay up to finish it, because I am doing everything in my human and beyond human power to get it out today. So that's coming today. That's exciting. I think, at least for me, I'm really excited for you guys to hear it, because this part of the interview, as a lot of my Patreon subscribers know, because I've been putting out some quotes from the interview on Patreon, is about Tork's journey through Mariupol, Tork's journey from Mariupol to Azovstal, and then his time at Azovstal. And this one is a much more intense this one is a much more intense bit of the interview than the rest of them will be and were. It's incredibly heavy. I'm going to put out a warning before the video, because I'm going to include footage that's corresponding to what he is talking about, which is the destruction of Mariupol. So there is going to be some footage of like active warfare combat. There is going to be footage of destruction of Mariupol, and there is going to be footage that he shows of his personal injury that he's going to be talking in depth about. So if you are faint-hearted, if you have a light stomach, I would say, please be mindful of that. I am going to put out a warning. I am going to like read it out as well as have it on the screen, because I do want to make sure that everybody knows that, for instance, Tork will be showing a photo of like a torn out muscle that was torn out of his leg. So that's something that's there. I'm also going to put out the way that I do chapters. The way that I do chapters under Tork's interview, I'm going to do chapters again, and so I will put out that particular part as a trigger warning, and I will say injury. So graphic image of injury, and so you can just skip it if you don't want to see it. I will also try and sort of let you know maybe if it's possible before he shows the injury. Like I'll sort of put a screen and I'll say like rewind like forward the video if you don't want to see this, because it's graphic. It's graphic, and it's not just. I think it's much harder to see something like this when you like know the person who's showing it to you, right? Because when you see this online from like people that you've never met, people that you've never talked about, it's one thing. But I think that it's safe to say that since the previous interview, a lot of us have gotten well acquainted with Tork, and a lot of us like him, and a lot of us feel for him. So I think that seeing an injury like that on him is much it's much more difficult than just seeing like a soldier that we've never talked to. Okay, so asking someone if single doesn't mean I'm interested. I'm not responsible for your interpretation. Yeeting someone because they're an asshole is within my prerogative, and I'm not responsible for you thinking it's not fair, because this is not a channel for me on speed dating, and this is not a channel in which I indicated by any means that I want you to ask me if I'm single. I'm reading news about gore of the war. So, bye-bye. Jahar Dadayev says, for the first time I hear about war crimes. This is like a new slang among young people. No, it's not a new slang among young people. It's just that war crimes are taken much more seriously now than they were in the 90s. And people are actually paying attention to it. And war crimes there are rules and conducts of warfare where certain things go beyond what's allowed. And they're beyond cruel. Thank you, Mariana. So those are, and things that go beyond all levels of cruel are war crimes. Inflicting civilians into warfare is a war crime. Okay, so that is that with with everything that I had to sum up about what I've been working on. Well, trust me, there's a lot that I'm working on, but you will find out and you will see, because, well, most of it is visual, right? Okay. Then, speaking of today's thumbnail says terrorist attacks on Zaporizhzhia, and it's Putin's birthday today. Aren't we happy? Aren't we so happy? Oh, speaking of, before I even dive into the whole fact of this tragic day for humanity, where 70-something years ago this Hitler's mini-me was born, I want to ask you, how many of you read articles on Medium? How many of you actually read articles and like reading short articles? Yeah, Karina, hopefully it's his last birthday before his one-way trip to The Hague. What is the difference between an act of terrorism and war crimes? Actually, that's a great question. So I do. Okay, you do. So I have started a Medium where I am writing just like short little articles on my opinions. There is going to be a new one coming out probably this weekend about why the West is so eager to consume Russian propaganda, the collective West. And I don't mean you guys, I know you are not, but there is still a lot of people that like just can't accept the fact that this is propaganda and not reality. But so I am now putting out some articles on Medium, and I will share the page with you in a second. It's Yulia, the same way as everywhere.medium.com. And so that's one more avenue of communicating the news and communicating my thoughts that I'm adding to this channel. So what is the difference between an act of terrorism and a war crime? Well, so here's the thing. See, if, an act of terrorism and a war crime are not mutually exclusive. So if you rape a civilian as a soldier who occupied a city, that's a war crime, but it is not an act of terrorism. If you shoot a missile into a civilian building, that is both an act of terrorism and a war crime. You see what I'm saying? Like hiding behind civilians as a shield is a war crime. It's not an act of terrorism. Nuclear blackmail is nuclear terrorism and a war crime, both in one. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, Mashbook. But yes, so that is that. Let me show you, before we start on the news and before we start, hi Tammy, before we start with today's thumbnail, let me go onto my Medium and I will show you what it is. I figured that actually quite a few people prefer to read, and I also have a lot to say, and I can't just keep putting it out in like Twitter threads because it's too much, it's too much text, and no one wants to read that much text on Twitter. So I figured, creative writing it is. 1 second, present, share screen, Chrome tab, and the Chrome tab is, where is Medium? There we go, share. Okay. So this is my Medium. It's the same as, I'm still working on this because obviously I'm not very, I'm a designer and I want everything. Documenting Russia. Yes, I do have a subscriber feature on TikTok. It's up. It should be up over like here somewhere or over here. Thank you so much. But yeah, so basically, this is my first Medium article ever. I'm still figuring out how to design it. I have to design it properly because you know me and my design OCD, but I still haven't figured it out. So this is about Azov. It's a brief explanation, and that does have the link to the YouTube video. It's a brief explanation of who Azov are and who Azov aren't. It's a 3-minute read. It's very, it's very, very short. And it sort of explains to you why the logic of like, oh, Azov was formed by someone who has neo-Nazi who had like far-right leanings, therefore it's a, you know, a neo-Nazi organization or something like that. And basically I explain how that logic is faulty. And the next one that I'm working on right now is why is Collective West so eager to consume Russian propaganda? And I'm also honestly finding a lot of fun in a lot of creative fun in doing these sort of like thumbnails for Medium articles because, you know, I haven't done anything like that in a while, and I think there's, you know, like they should be so much different than my thumbnails on YouTube, and so it's been like kind of a creative journey that I've been really enjoying. But so with that said, so with that said, I'm going to read you a little bit from that article just so you understand the kind of format that you should expect from these articles. They're not going to be written in a highly like scientific language or a very political language. I want them to be down to earth, and I want them to be relatable while also explaining you facts. So here's this article. It's a 3-minute read, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you. Who are the Azov regiment? Despite the popular claims by the Western propaganda directly parroted by the Western media directly parroted from Russian propaganda, they're just an elite unit of the National Guard of Ukraine. It's that simple. But what about their tattoos, you ask? What about them? I understand that things like that serve to a confirmation bias very well, but despite that, those are just tattoos. Some have a meaning based on ancient Slavic runes. Lots are tied to the straight edge movement. Some are just artwork. But what about their insignia? You continue. Idea of nations, or what you in the West like to proclaim to be a wolf's angle, is an ancient Slavic symbol, one of many that has been in wide circulation in Ukraine way before Hitler was born. He appropriated our symbols, not the other way around. Russian propaganda just had a field trip spinning them into a convenient narrative. But they were originally formed as a Nazi, far-right, white supremacy organization, you say. No, they were not. Russian propaganda told you they were, and Western media ate it up and added on. Azov was formed as a reaction to the Russian invasion of Ukraine when our military was virtually non-existent and lots of cities were under threat. Volunteers, men from all states of Ukraine, came together to fight for the eastern cities and proved to be incredibly successful at it, diverting enemy troops from Mariupol and Kherson, for instance. Every group has a leader. Turned out that the man who took upon himself to organize these guys into an effective group had far-right leanings. In 2015, he was removed from his post, largely due to this information coming out. Did he have far-right leanings? Yes. Did he create Azov to act upon them? No. Azov was created for protection from the Russian invasion and always consisted from people coming out of various religious and ethnic backgrounds. Today, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian army is a Jewish man by the name of Volodymyr Zelensky. How do you suppose a Nazi group falls under the command of and takes direct orders from a Jew? A bit of an oxymoron, don't you find? Here is the thing. I'm a graphic designer who has been talking about Ukraine, providing geopolitical and historical context to this war since February 24th on various media outlets. In a way, you can call me a reporter now. My channels are focused on politics of Ukraine then and now. But I'm a graphic designer, right? So with the logic you apply to Azov, my channels are not about Ukraine, they are about graphic design, simply because I'm a graphic designer who created them. Of course, it's not as controversial as a far-right leaning man leading a volunteer battalion at that time, but the logic remains. His personal beliefs do not reflect on the beliefs of nearly thousands of men who have joined the already depoliticized, full-fledged regiment of the armed forces, nor do they dictate the purpose with which it was originally created. More on that and other things Azov related in the video interview with a serviceman of the regiment I included below. So this is sort of what I wanted to like elaborate on. How do I am Slava? And this is sort of something that I want to explain. One of the things that I hear very often that really, really, really bugs me. When you talk about the Navy SEALs, do you call an individual serviceman of the Navy SEALs a member of the Navy SEALs? You don't, right? A member can be a member of an organization. A member can be a member of a gym. A member can be someone who is in a cult, right? When you are in a military, you're not a member of the military. You are a serviceman of the armed forces of your country. You are the soldier of the armed forces of your country. Так, я розмовляю українською мовою, але чому ти це питаєшся на російській? You are a member of you are a serviceman of the armed forces of your country, right? No one would ever call a Marine in the US a member of the Marines. So why is it that we still refer to Azov as he is the member of the Azov regiment, right? They're not a member of a regiment. It's not an organization. It's not a cult. It is an elite unit with superior preparation of the National Guard of Ukraine. So that's the whole point. One of the ways that we, as Western people, perpetuate that Russian propaganda is by accidentally saying things like, oh, Azov organization. Oh, a member of the Azov. They're not members of Azov. They're servicemen of the National Guard of Ukraine who serve in the Azov regiment or the unit, because Azov regiment is not an organization separate from the Ukrainian army. They're just a name of a battalion in the Ukrainian army, the 36th separate. Aiden Aslan, a very, very, very famous Breton who served in the Ukrainian armed forces since 2017. He served, his contract ended a couple of days ago. He served in the 36th Separate Marine Brigade. We don't call him a member of the 36th Separate Marine Brigade, right? He's a serviceman of the armed forces of Ukraine. So are the men who serve in Azov, because Azov is pretty much the same thing as the 36th Separate Marine Brigade, right? It's just a unit. It's the name of the unit, but for some reason, it's become like an organization where that is some attachment to the Ukrainian army. No, it's directly in the army of Ukraine, specifically in the National Guard. So one of the ways that you can help combat Russian propaganda about Azov is you can stop calling them members of Azov regiment. You can stop calling it an organization, and you can stop using these words that make them sound like some separate militia thing that exists on its own merit. It does not. It's an elite unit of the National Guard of Ukraine. It's similar in its essence to the Navy SEALs, right? The Navy SEALs have special combat prep. They have special combat techniques. They're an elite unit of the American armed forces. Same here. This is just one of the most combat-ready units that the armed forces of Ukraine have. But their commander-in-chief is the president, same as every other unit of the armed forces of Ukraine, and they are part of the National Guard of Ukraine. That's all it is. It's just that their name is so famous everywhere that for some reason they're being separated into it's their own thing. They're not. They're equally as much National Guard as every other unit of National Guard is. So there we go. There we go. Okay, with that said, let's go back to my favorite day of the year, and that is Putrid's birthday. So today is his birthday, hopefully the last one before his one-way ticket trip to The Hague. I've been seeing lots of reports that a lot of people in Russia believe that Putin is going to be taken out by his own people. Now, all of this is incredibly vague and incredibly ambiguous, but there has been more and more talk there. There have been some there have been some, sorry, I just saw a message on TikTok that I read. Well, thank you, Katie. But I also would like to point out that he's President ZE, like Zelensky, because when we don't call him President Z because of, well, because the Russians ruined letter Z for us forever now. He is Z, or like Zelia, but like, no one really calls him Zelia anymore unless you are trying to disrespect him, because it's kind of like a, nickname. But yeah, no worries. No worries. I am absolutely not offended by any means. Just want to make sure that that is out there. But yeah, so basically there has been a lot of like inner turmoil between different Russian structures. There have been Russian soldiers that refused to go into combat, that were stationed in Belgorod, that do not have supplies, and they've recorded official sort of not official video sounds wrong, but addresses to the president saying that they're not going into combat and that they have all of this ammo, and that they're gonna stand their ground unless they get better treatment and they get all the necessities they need. So that's one of the things. There is resistance within the army that's growing. There are a lot of conflicts between like PMC Wagner founders. One of them was arrested. There are a lot of conflicts in between different minorities that fight on the same side of the barricade. Russia was trying to buy bulletproof vests and other gear from Turkey, and Turkey said no. At this point, Russia does not have any gear, so to speak, to give to their soldiers. There have been multiple videos of Russian soldiers literally wrapping their feet into pillowcases. Thank you, Todd. Into pillowcases and putting them into like a World War II standard boot. So those soldiers are saying, "Hey, I'm supposed to go to combat in the same thing that my grandfather went to combat in." And so obviously the demoralization of the army continues. It's going worse and worse. But the thing is, the more Putin has an understanding of how royally he is losing this war, the more unpredictable he becomes. So the terrorist attack on Zaporizhzhia onto a civilian building, onto civilian infrastructure that left now 11 dead, is a typical move from the Russian side when they're losing. When Russians understand how severely they're losing, they get more and more brutal with the airstrikes. The Zaporizhzhia terrorist attack has been talked about for a couple of days now. They are actively working on going through the rubble and trying to save as many people as they can. But the death toll keeps rising and rising, and today it has risen to 11. The number of injured rises every couple of hours, so I'm not going to give you that number. We're going to go through the news and figure it out what it's at by the end of the news cycle, because it is just very malleable, unfortunately. And that is, this is kind of the trade-off with this war. The more Putin bombs, the more you know he's weak, and the more you understand that he knows he's losing, and the more you know it's an act of despair. So that's good news, right? But the more he does that, obviously, the more people suffer. So it's an incredibly, incredibly unfortunate trade-off. And on the one hand, all of us know that the more missiles fly into Ukraine, the more desperate he's becoming. But also, the more missiles fly into Ukraine, the more Ukrainian people are not going to wake up to see tomorrow. So there's that. We're going to dive into the news shortly. I'm sorry for Cindy snoring. I'm sure you hear it in the background. She's been incredibly difficult today. She was chewing her bone, running around as I was trying to record some parts of the preface to the Tork interview. Babes, you good? But yeah, so it's hard for me to sort of like, put my thoughts together today, because I think that I turned off from the news a little bit yesterday, and I was so like excited to breathe out and just like take a day to pretend like this is not happening. And then I went back to my Telegram at about 8 p.m. and I read all of the updates that had happened, and I was like, this is why I don't take breaks, because no matter how much I rest, it's not like horrors are not going to happen. It's not like I'm not going to come back tomorrow to, instead of 80 updates, 160 updates of terrifying, horrifying stuff that happened. And that's reality. And you can't just mute it out because you're tired. And you can't just mute it out because you're sad. You can't just mute it out because you need a break. Because, no matter how many breaks you need, the war is not going to take a break. And with that break, you're going to come back to even more news about even more horror, because you've now missed a day. And that is that. That is kind of how I feel. And so today is a little bit of a difficult day for me, and I might be a little bit slower in my analysis, because normally I have a day worth of news to dissect. Today I had to like read through 2 days worth of news and to sort of understand the situation. So it's a little it's weighing down on me for sure a little bit. Okay. Members of the European Parliament have called on the EU member states and other countries supporting Ukraine significantly to increase their military aid, especially in the types of weapons requested by the Ukrainian government. This is stated in the European Parliament resolution adopted on October 6th. Odessa region was attacked by kamikaze drones. 3 Shahed 136 drones were downed over the sea by the Ukrainian Air Defense Forces. The Ukrainian parliament adopted the draft law on e-residency. This is actually something very interesting for you guys who are not Ukrainian citizens and you want to invest into the economy of Ukraine and also make some money while at it. You can now open a business in Ukraine through a few clicks. So I'm going to read through this. This is mostly meant for like foreign investors and for people who are interested in starting a business in Ukraine remotely. E-resident status will allow foreigners to register a business in a few clicks, remotely develop it, and pay taxes in Ukraine under favorable terms. 5% of income, 15% of the amount exceeding the limit. The team of the Ministry of Digital Transformation is already working on the development of a web version and a mobile app using cloud-based digital signature technologies. It will allow entrepreneurs to register or open a bank account quickly and conveniently through a browser or a smartphone, without paperwork and complicated bureaucratic procedures. So we as Ukrainians have this app called Dia, and all of our paperwork is basically stored in this app. And it's the app made and provided by the Ministry of Digital Transformation. Ministry of Digital Transformation is also behind United 24 project. So it's a project, it's a cumulative project of Volodymyr Zelensky and Fedorov is is our Minister of Cyber Integration. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Netlin, of Digital Integration. And so this is their combined project. I don't have a Reddit. I have a Medium, I have a Twitter, I have you name it, but not Reddit. and so basically, I am assuming that you are now going to be able to use very similar privileges in terms of documentation opening business as a Ukrainian person does by using DIA and having all of our paperwork and all of our taxes and everything in one app in a digital format. So that seems like what they're working on for foreign businesses, which is kind of cool. And I'm really excited for it because that will allow for a lot of people to be able to partake in Ukrainian economy and to be able to, bring new things on the market and be able to contribute to the development of Ukraine. But also somebody said you need a Reddit. Jay, I'm sorry, I don't need a Reddit. I don't know how Reddit works. I'm so bad at Reddit. I have so many different platforms that I manage, and most of them I can't just dedicate to someone to post things for me. That means that I need to look for more posts, and that means that I need to look for more information, and that means that I need to post more information. And I am literally like, I need a clone. I need a clone, and I need a clone pronto. I mean, like, I wish I had 7 more hours in a day at least. And also, I know that Medium is a journalism platform. I have started writing articles on Medium, so that's one of the things, because Twitter has a character limit, and sometimes I have a lot to say. Anyways, the Ukrainian military is undergoing training in operating NASAMS and IRIS-T air defense missile systems. Yuri Ignat, a spokesperson of the Ukrainian Air Force. The Republic of Korea used ATACMS missile system during exercises. The joint exercises of the U.S. and South Korean armies with the use of missiles were of a demonstration nature. The Ukrainian Military Center reports. At the same time, it was a response to the actions of North Korea, which launched a ballistic missile over Japan 2 days ago. I mean, it's very... I've tried Reddit, Jay. I've tried Reddit. So Jay on TikTok is saying you will like Reddit. Trust me on that one. I've tried Reddit. We use Reddit in order to spread information about the YouTube videos, to be very honest. But I personally am not going to create my own Reddit. I think for me, it's like way too complicated of a platform. It has too many like things going on there. And I have so many platforms that I'm already using and that I'm already utilizing that I just cannot imagine having one more. And frankly, I am, but frankly, I am more interested in using like Medium, where I can write articles. It's just like, it depends on priorities. Like, I know Reddit is a great tool to spread information for sure, especially on different channels and stuff like that. It's 100% a great tool in spreading something, in getting attention to something, right? Oh, hi, David. But for me personally, it's too much. It's a lot of like work that I'm not excited about doing. Like the same as, a lot of people were asking me to do a Telegram channel, and like, I don't want to. I do like, this is my Telegram channel, Normally you would go on Telegram and read news updates from different channels. This is my Telegram version. This is my version of a Telegram channel. You come here for the updates and they're in real time and you can ask me questions. So I don't see the point of having a Telegram channel because it would just add work to my, add a lot of work to my existence, drain me of a lot of resources, and really not serve any purpose. So that's kind of how I look into, and that's kind of like, how I decide where I want to create new platforms and where I don't. So yeah. And again, I have an amazing team of moderators who help me with all of the platforms that I don't know how to use and help me with all of the platforms that I'm not on. So there is that. Boa noite, Walasi. Okay. According to the information available to European governments, the sabotage of the Nord Stream and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines was most likely the work of Russian intelligence services. The Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, stated this. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs says Moscow seeks to avoid a nuclear war. Sure. The Russian Federation fully adheres to the principle of preventing a nuclear war. We have repeatedly said and confirmed this. There will be no winners in such a war, and it should never be unleashed, said a spokeswoman for Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Maria Zakharova. I wonder, I understand that Russians contradict themselves all the time, right? But I'm very curious as to, okay, this is not really done for Russians, right? This is like a response to the world because she's a spokesperson for foreign affairs. And here's my question. So you threaten nuclear terrorism on Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant openly. Putin, the other day on TV, openly threatened with nuclear war and said, this is not bluffing. I mean, literally, that's what he said, right? So so what do you mean that a Russian Federation fully adheres to the principle of preventing a nuclear war? You're the first country that started threatening with nuclear war. If you're adhering to the principle of preventing the nuclear war, see, this is such gaslighting. It's like a masterfully done gaslighting. It's like, oh, we don't want nuclear war, but we're going to threaten you with it because, while we don't want it, you might leave us no choice. No, if you don't want nuclear war, then you don't want nuclear war and it's off the docket. And you just absolutely shove it aside. And this doesn't even come up in conversation because if you don't want it, you don't want it. If you want to manipulate people with nuclear war, if you want to threaten people with nuclear war, then you consistently will keep bringing it up. And that's what Russia does on a daily basis. They're like, we don't want nuclear war, but you might force us into nuclear war. No, that means that you're okay with nuclear war. Because if you didn't want it, and you wanted to, as you say, prevent a nuclear war, then you would assure the world that you have no interest in starting such an event. And you would not use it for a purpose of your personal blackmail. So, this is how gaslighting works. Russia is the world's toxic boyfriend, toxic ex-boyfriend that you can't get rid of. They say that they don't want to have anything to do with you. They say that you suck. They say that you are the worst, that you've done everything terrible to them. Yet they continuously blackmail you, won't leave you alone, and continuously try to put the responsibility of your breakup onto you, right? They want to put the responsibility of the world turning away from them onto you. They want to find somebody to blame but themselves while still exhibiting the most toxic behavior in the world. My gosh. 7 citizens of Zaporizhzhia are confirmed dead. At least 5 more are considered missing. The wreckage is still being dismantled, reports the head of Zaporizhzhia Regional Military Administration, Alexander Starov. It's been 11 at this point. Volodymyr Zelensky is sure that the world will never forgive Putin if he uses nuclear weapons. Zelensky added Putin himself would not survive such a scenario. It seems to me that Russia's director, Putin, himself loves his life. And I think that he understands after using nuclear weapons, he will not be able to preserve his life. I am sure of that, the president said. Here is another thing, he can go into a bunker, right? He can go into as many bunkers as possible. But here are 2 things. America, the United States, which is arguably the strongest NATO member, right, has nukes as well, and they are arguably much more advanced and much more modern nukes. If Putin were to use nuclear weapons and nuclear war were to start, Putin is not going to survive. He would sign his death warrant immediately because there isn't a bunker enough to survive nuclear warfare. And if he completely annihilates everybody in his country, specifically because he is put in the corner and he is just he is just bitter. Then whoever is left surviving with him is just going to end his life, because really no one at that point would be standing behind him. Like, why? Why? As in, like, there is nothing left to stand behind, right? Imagine the entirety of Russia is destroyed by the American response to using tactical nukes. Who's going to stand behind him? He's going to be killed. So none of these scenarios end well for him, and there is really no reason for him to even try and threaten with nukes, and it's obviously bluff, although we should take it very seriously, and we should we should prepare for any possible scenario, because you should never not take something seriously coming out of like, you know, an mentally ill man's mouth. But at the same time, it is highly likely to be bluff, because he fully understands that using nukes will destroy Russia. So Russia will never become an empire again, because it's just going to literally be leveled to the ground. And it'll also cost him his life as well, separately from that. Russia has already used 86 Shahed 136 drones against Ukraine. Alexei Hromov, deputy chief of the main operations department of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, reported that 60% of these drones had been destroyed. According to him, since September 30th, Russian troops have used 46 Shahed 136 kamikaze drones to hit military facilities, civilian infrastructure, and military positions, 24 of which were destroyed. The EU imposed sanctions against another 30 individuals and 7 legal entities. The list includes, in particular, the singers, propagandists Yulia Chicherina and Oleg Gazmanov, the ideologist of neo-Eurasianism Alexander Dugin and Ella Pamfilova, chairwoman of the Central Election Commission of Russia. Alexander Lukashenko has imposed a ban on price increases and business closures in Belarus starting today. I'm sorry, but I need to put some lip gloss on because my lips are really dry and it's really not fun. Okay, here is a video from Ukraine Now. This one's short, so I'm not going to put it on full screen. I'm just going to show it to you. No, this is not footage from the filming of a Hollywood action movie. This is the video from the front lines and the work of Ukrainian defenders. Ottawa in Canada held a referendum on the accession of the Russian embassy to Canada. I actually absolutely love this. This was so funny and this was so necessary. I'm going to show it to you full screen because it just honestly deserves it. And whoever came up with it, the group of people who are the activists who came up with it, like genius. And it's so, you know, telling and such a good parallel to what Russia is doing in like Kherson and Zaporizhzhia. Like Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, because you know it's a circus, it's a farce, right? So here is a group of Canadians specifically demonstrating why it is a circus and why it is a farce and why it is a joke. Because this is about how the referendum in Ukraine looked like, except, you know, the Canadians are not using weapons over here. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to put on the video, and you will be able to watch it.
My brother-in-law in Kharkiv. That is for Miroslava. That's for Zelensky. I vote for him.
Very good.
Oh, I forgot to put yes, but no matter what.
Here. There you go. Yes. We'll put yes for you. It's okay. Good, yes. Woo! Bravo!
This is about just as legitimate of a referendum as the referendum that Russians conducted in Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk. There is also, like, I want to speak on that a little bit, but so here's an analogy that I was trying to explain. There is this Canadian journalist. I don't remember her name. Frankly, I don't want to know her name. She's a Canadian journalist who is quite literally a Russian RT propagandist, who is incredibly high Max, who has incredibly close ties to Russia and quite literally writes for Russian television, right? So she went to do an independent investigation in a DNR and LNR and asked people whether they want to join Russia. And on her Twitter posted this interview of her polling lots of people at the polling station and asking them why they want to be, whether they want to be a part of Russia. And her caption was something like, leave them alone. They want to be a part of Russia. They don't want to be Ukraine, right? And then Elon Musk said something along the lines of, oh, there are Russian, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson clearly don't want to be Russia, but Lugansk and Donetsk do. The overwhelming majority there wants to be Russia. No, they don't. First of all, let's get this straight. The overwhelming majority of the residents of occupied Luhansk and Donetsk, today known as the pseudo-republics of LNR and DNR, have fled from their homes under the threat of Russian terrorism in 2014. If you look at the number of people who fled those regions versus the number of people who stayed, you will see that the number of people who fled is much, much higher than the number of people who stayed. Those people who fled clearly did not want to be a part of Russia. So they're pro-Ukrainian, and they are a majority. There is, in fact, very little people that stayed there who were pro-Russian. There are some people who stayed not because they are pro-Russian, but because they're not very mobile, didn't have money, they're old, they have disabilities that prevent them from traveling or moving, lots of different reasons. But first of all, the majority of the people, even in Donbass, even in Donetsk and Luhansk, were pro-Ukrainian. There was never even a rhetoric of Donbass joining Russia until Russian armed invasion. And until Russian propaganda came in and literally organized that. People often ask, have you polled Ukrainians on whether they wanted to be a part of Russia? Why on earth would we do that if that was never even part of the conversation? Nobody has even ever expressed a desire for that to happen until quite literally Russian forces came in armed and forced them to. Why on earth would we be polling if two of our oblasts want to be a part of Russia if they've never expressed desire to be so? Will we just wake up one day and be like, you know what? Those places are close to Russia. Why don't we ask them if they want to be Russia instead? What? Second of all, if you look for the people who say the overwhelming majority in those regions support Russia, please go ahead and I'll show you something. I'll show you something very interesting. I will show you something incredibly interesting. So Volodymyr Zelensky is the current president, and he won by a landslide, by a 70% landslide, right? Zelensky is very openly pro-Ukrainian and has been very openly pro-Ukrainian, has been very openly against corruption and against all of that stuff. So it's safe to say that a person who voted for Zelensky is incredibly pro-Ukrainian. Here is something I will show you on a shared screen. This is a map of the election results for Volodymyr Zelensky in 2019. For those of you who say that these regions are incredibly pro-Russian, right? So here you can see, right here, these regions, right? These are the regions that everybody says are incredibly pro-Russian. If you look at that, the dark green signifies the amount of people that voted for Zelensky. And these regions actually overwhelmingly voted for Zelensky. overwhelmingly voted for Zelensky. All of the regions that you say are interested in joining Russia overwhelmingly voted for Zelensky. So for anybody that wants to say that those regions were interested in being Russia, think again, because here are the election results where you can see that actually Eastern Ukraine voted for Zelensky more than Western Ukraine did. So here is a fun fact for you. None of these people wanted to be Russia. None of them asked to be Russia. And another point that I do want to mention specifically to that as well is that interview of that Canadian pseudo journalist, right, of the people at the polling station, showing that, look at this, all of these people from Donetsk and Luhansk want to be Russia. First of all, most of those people who live in those territories now came from Russia. They're not Ukrainian. They did not live there pre-2014. Second of all, you're going to a polling station to which people showed up to actually vote in this sham referendum. So chances are that the people who are there do obviously support Russia. Also, what? So you interviewed about 100 people, right? 100 people out of thousands of people who live there. Okay, cool. So let me give you an analogy. Saying that Donetsk and Luhansk want to be, oh, hi, Bumpy. Saying that Donetsk and Luhansk want to be a part of Russia simply because there are like 100 people who do at the polling station is about as accurate as saying that New York will vote Trump and New York prefers Trump in the election simply because there are a couple of people or a couple of hundred people who voted for Trump and who prefer Trump. So if I were to go to a Trump-supporting region of New York State, which, as I mentioned previously, I know is Saginaw Lake, deep upstate New York, your glasses look like those of a serial killer. I know. I call them 70s pedophile glasses, and I love them. And I bought them specifically because I like the look, okay? Anyways, so basically, what I was trying to say is that it's just as plausible as saying that New York as a state prefers Trump because there are some New Yorkers who voted Trump. If I go to Saginaw Lake and I interview every single household that has Make America Great Again sign on it, knowing that they're pro-Trump, I can paint you a picture showing that, you know, New York State really prefers Trump. But does it? No. New York has always overwhelmingly been a Democratic state, and New York is overwhelmingly against Trump. I mean, vocally. And so are all of these regions. But yet, for some reason, the collective West is like, did they actually want to be Russian? Because there are 20 people in that interview that said they did. That represents the entire population and definitely represents the people who fled specifically to not be a part of Russia. Like, this is such flat, like naive propaganda influence thinking that it kills me that we as an educated society outside of Russia in the West, where we do have access to all of this education and all of these resources, still, for some reason, fall for this shit. Like, how? Please, guys. Critical thinking. I know that most people who watch me, I know that a lot of people don't. And I'm not saying collective West isn't like the overwhelming majority in the West, but obviously there are still a lot of people that believe this stuff. And there are obviously still a lot of people that use that as like evidence. And it's like, this is not backed by anything. And also an interview with 20 people. It does not correspond to reality by any means. Post-fighting chaos photos in the liberated Liman. Take a look. That's not what I really wanted to call it, to call what? Time magazine published an article about Nadia Ivanova, a heroic farmer from the Mykolaiv region. The article, "The Ukrainian women farmers fighting to keep the world fed," tells how, despite the shelling, Nadia continued to sow and cultivate her land, providing grain and sunflowers not only for the locals but also for the world market. Героям слава! Most of the news are lies. Oh yes, so you would rather prefer to stay ignorant and have and live in your bliss, right? That makes more sense. That makes you sound so much more. I know that people, for some reason, there are these like people that go in and they're like, most news are lies. I'm edgy. I don't trust the news. I just prefer to stay uninformed. And and then instead of reading the news, it makes me edgy because I just hear garbage through the word of mouth, and then I pretend like I researched it, and so I use it to feed my uninformed, ignorant narrative. It's like, okay, sure, you can think that most of the news are lies, but here's what you do when you are a critical thinking, educated human being. What you go and do is that you find different resources and you read different things, and then you basically take them together, you analyze them, and you figure out what is true and what is not true, also based on like history, general political knowledge, I don't know, physics, what's possible and what's impossible. Saying things like news are lies, so I just don't watch them and I stay ignorant is like, okay, well, here's the thing. Whether news are lies or not, and whether people fall for lies or not, then you are just as stupid as the people who fall for lies, because at least they try to stay informed. They just can't tell. Sorry. So basically there is that. Sorry, I just received an email, so I had to check on it. But yeah, basically that's about what it is. UFOs, aka UAPs, are real, so there is that. So basically, it's like you deciding to not learn just because you think that there is no way to do it is even worse than somebody falling for lies. That's about it. Okay, the threat of missile attacks from Belarus will remain until the end of the year. The restricted flight zone in the south of the country has been extended until January 1st, 2023. 2 Riley burner bicycles were created in the UK in support of Ukraine. An auction was organized on the eBay platform where 2 bicycles will be sold. It will last another week until October 13th. The proceeds will be given to Ukrainian refugees in particular and on bikes by Bikes for Ukraine. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reports that since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Belarus keeps supplying the Russian army with ammunition and spare parts for the armored vehicles. Since February 24th, almost 250 freight cars with ammunition weighing over 10,000 tons were transported from Belarus. Spain will provide Ukraine with a new shipment of SUVs, ambulances, and medications, reports Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles. 8 light armored SUVs, 2 ambulances, and 5 tons of medications will be sent from the city of Alcalá de Henares. An inscription on the main office of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Is the Kremlin burning? Call 101 so we could watch it burn. So, Ukraine, we always have our dark humor, and we always utilize it in the time of war in order to kind of lift up the spirits of our citizens. This is the Main Office of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Yes, Cindy is snoring very much. Let me move her. Sin, boobs, you're being so loud. So loud, everybody can hear you snore. Babes, everybody can hear you snore. Everybody hears you snore. Everybody hears you snore. Snore, snore, snore. Snore, snore, snore. Okay. That's it? Okay. All right. Finland has provided the 9th military assistance package to Ukraine, reports Finland's defense minister Antti Kaikkonen. The new military assistance package is worth 11.8 million euros. IAEA still considers the temporarily occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to be property of Ukraine, regardless of Putin's annexation decrees. Well, because it is, and his annexation decrees are, purely to satisfy his ego, but they really do not mean anything on the international arena, nor do they mean anything in the arena of Ukraine. Also, I remember that Armin sent his quote for the day today, and there we go. Armin always sends a quote every day, and I personally really love them, and I always look forward to them because they're very relevant, and I think that they summarize the current conversation very well. Okay, Marcus Tullius Cicero wrote, "Persistence in one opinion has never been considered a merit in political leaders. Stubbornness is always disastrous, and Putin stubbornly clings to USSR-era fantasies." Well, that's kind of like the thing, I agree with that, because it's not even that he clings to USSR-era fantasies. I think it's to the point that he can't give it up. His ego is so high, and his ego is so inflated that he sees that there is nothing he can do, but he won't let it go because he can't afford for himself to lose. And he can't afford for the world to think this guy couldn't do it. But it's, at some point it's better to give up and admit you made a mistake. It's better to give up and admit that you don't have the capacity to do something, because you are making yourself into more of an idiot and into more of a laughing stock while you keep proceeding onto something that you obviously can't handle. The Ukrainian parliament called for the world to support self-determination of the indigenous peoples of Russia. The statement emphasizes that through its aggressive imperialistic policy, Russia perpetrates genocide against the enslaved population, ignores the principle of equality and self-determination of peoples, grossly violates the rights of indigenous peoples and citizens representing national minorities. The Parliament of Ukraine supports the inseparable right for self-determination of peoples under the UN Charter, common norms and principles of the international law. Ukraine asked the US to provide more air defense systems in preparation for attacks on the infrastructure in winter, reports Politico. Apart from that, the Russian Federation is running out of precise missiles. Therefore, the strikes will be increasingly imprecise and destructive. The occupier uses all available weapons against civilians in the Zaporizhzhia region. Today, the occupier used unmanned aerial vehicles for the first time. Previously, these were Shahed 136 UAVs. That is why the townspeople did not hear loud explosions. According to preliminary information, there is one victim who was provided with medical assistance. And that is another strike on Zaporizhzhia. The United States does not plan to deploy nuclear weapons on the territory of NATO countries that joined the alliance after 1997, according to the State Department. Washington is also unaware of any discussions about the possibility of deploying nuclear weapons in Poland. Earlier, Polish President Andrzej Duda said that Poland is discussing with the United States the possibility of placing nuclear weapons on its territory. Not being a nuclear country, Poland, according to Duda, is ready to participate in the NATO nuclear exchange program. Nuclear sharing is a program of NATO countries to deploy and store the American nuclear arsenal in Europe. The program provides that countries that do not possess nuclear weapons can place them on their territory and participate in planning and exercises. European countries will send more military equipment to Ukraine to counter Russia, including more French Caesar-type howitzers, French President Emmanuel Macron said. So Taz is asking on Twitch, so Baltics a no-go? Probably not, because Baltics joined after 1997. And the Baltics are directly bordering with Russia, so placing nuclear weapons on their border, NATO would be like, ooh, we might trigger Russia. We don't want to do any moves that could potentially anger Putin because we like to negotiate with terrorists. We don't want to make him think that we actually could take action. We just want to let him know that we are scared of what he might do by that actually pushing him to do something horrible. But that's besides the point. So yeah, it doesn't look like Baltics will be involved. The death toll in Zaporizhzhia has risen to 11. As of the morning of October 7th, emergency rescue operations are underway at the site of the destroyed residential buildings as a result of rocket attacks on October 6th. In total, 21 people were rescued and 11 people died. So here is a very interesting video report that I want to show you guys. It's titled 30% of Ukraine's successes in the big counteroffensive in the east was due to British and German missile systems. A Ukrainian officer speaking on condition of anonymity told Sky News. Oh, hi, Finland. Good to see you. Sam Mann is one of my favorite politicians in the world. She is so smart. She is so direct. She does not take any crap from anybody. She knows how to stand up for herself, and she's also beautiful. She is like my spirit animal. Thank you for electing her. She is freaking awesome. Or rather, thank you for, I don't think she was elected. I think she was formed with the cabinet of your president. But she is freaking awesome, and I'm a totally straight woman who has a very, very, very big crush on her. I think she's freaking fantastic. Oh. She is fantastic. Okay.
Tipping the balance on the battlefield in Ukraine's favor.
These British weapons are vital for Ukraine, giving troops the ability to hit valuable Russian targets at a distance with precision. We have to get back to the car now quickly. We've been told we've got 4 minutes to get out of here.
With Russian guns able to strike back fast, it could be fatal to stand still. No one hangs around. Hours earlier, Sky News went to meet soldiers operating the multiple launch rocket systems given to Ukraine by the UK.
We're being taken to the rocket launcher now. We've been told to turn off our mobile phones to avoid them being tracked. The location of the site is top secret.
Each launcher is well hidden to avoid detection by Russia. It's the first time anyone's been granted access to one of the British systems in this war. We're not allowed to say where it is, other than eastern Ukraine, and identifying soldiers is forbidden.
So all the way from the UK, yeah?
Yep.
From the UK, wow.
The UK has given Ukraine 6 of these rocket launchers, veterans of past wars, winning new fans. The soldiers live in the cabin as well as fight. Telltale signs of its origin aren't hard to find. These are the missiles. It can hold 12 in total, each with a range of more than 50 miles.
How does it feel when you launch them and you know you're attacking Russia?
Я знаю, що я отримав ці координати, я їх забив, я їх зафіксував. І після пуску перше відчуття було серце так, все. А далі все спокійно.
Resupplies are crucial because these weapons are in use multiple times a day. A commander even claims almost a third of Ukraine's successes in a major counter-offensive right now in the east has been thanks to British as well as German rocket launchers. Suddenly a call comes in. They've got a new mission. Go right a bit, one soldier says. Target locked. The commander, in English, says fire. A switch is flicked. We watch from a distance. The target is apparently a mobile command post. Video footage has been capturing the impact of artillery strikes similar to the one we witnessed. Here, Russian armoured vehicles are destroyed. Western rocket launchers are key for Ukraine to stand a chance to counter Russia's long-range artillery. Ukrainian soldiers even received training in the UK on how to use the British system.
Дуже вони багато нам що дали, і ми, завдяки цим тренуванням ми зараз виконуємо завдання. Завдяки цим тренуванням через 3 дня після повернення з Англії ми вже виконували завдання бойові.
The soldiers constantly check encrypted devices for new orders. Another one comes in, and out they roll. It's a relentless fight for survival, and the aim is to win. Deborah Hain, Sky News, in eastern Ukraine.
Hopefully that was informative for you guys. Also, I do want to address a comment from Alpha Zero on on YouTube. One of the things that I want to say is Alpha Zero says Putin is 70, he might take the world with him. Here's the thing, Putin is 70, but he is also a raging narcissist who is clearly doing plastic surgery and like upkeep to look younger. I mean, we all know it makes him look even worse, but that's not the point. He's clearly a raging narcissist who, despite the fact that he's 70, is not ready to die and is not ready to like be killed, is not ready to give up, is not ready to do any of those things. Even if he does perform, like say, a nuclear bomb test in the Black Sea, that does not mean that he is willing to use nuclear weapons. That means that he wants to like show the world that he can. And also us appeasing him is really not going to do anything, because that just gives him more power, and that just gives him this concept of not being punished. So that's one. Two, again, as I said, he is a 70-year-old man who really cares about his appearance, who really cares about his reputation, who really cares about the world perceiving him as powerful. Here is the thing. If he takes out the world, then there is not going to be anyone to perceive him as powerful. There is not going to be anyone to even witness the fact that he had done this nuclear strike, because that's going to wipe the world out, right? So Putin is not, I can't say he's not going to do that, because, you know, I'm not a fortune teller. Neither am I going to say something that fact-like when none of us know. But it's highly unlikely that he would take the world out with him, because he himself does not seem like a man who's ready to be taken out. Okay, Biden spoke out about the direct threat of the use of nuclear weapons. According to him, Putin is not joking when he talks about the possible use of tactical nuclear weapons, biological or chemical weapons. This, Biden believes, is a consequence of the fact that the Russian army is significantly behind. It's also a consequence of the fact that the West failed to show him the consequences that would follow had he done that. For the first time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, we're facing a direct threat from the use of nuclear weapons. If the situation really continues to develop along the path in which it is developing, the US president said. The use of nuclear weapons by the Russian Federation can lead to Armageddon, said Biden. Here's the thing. Well, first of all, Alpha Zero, who says he will do it, this is fear-mongering. And this is fear-mongering for no reason, because if he's going to do it, then he's going to do it, and we're all going to die, okay? We also, if a belligerent narcissist wants to use tactical nuclear weapons, nothing is going to stop him, okay? No matter what we do, it's not going to stop him. The only thing that can stop him is showing him that you're stronger than him, okay? And pushing him where it hurts, not succumbing to him. So if you'd like to keep spreading fear mongering, then you're welcome to do that anywhere else but on this channel. Second, it's my opinion we need to give him a way out is a very, very terrifying thing to say, because if we give him a way out, then he's going to come back with the same thing in a little while. And that's not going to help anybody, because making concessions with the nuclear terrorist is not going to lead to anything other than a nuclear Armageddon. So there you have it. Another thing is, I really don't appreciate Biden talking about this stuff in the key in which he is. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about Biden or give him like a hard time about it or anything like that. But I think that sometimes he says a lot of stuff that he should have rather not said, because this, in fact, is fear mongering on his behalf. And this, in fact, is going to be taken by a lot of people as Biden thinks Putin is going to use nukes. What he actually is saying is that we shouldn't be discounting this as just like, oh, this is an insane man trying to save face and like trying to, trying to scare us, but we should actually take it seriously, because you never freaking know with an insane man, right? And this is by saying that this is the closest we've come to the nuclear Armageddon since like the 60s missile crisis, right? Is because, well, we haven't had like really any other threats of that, or really no one else has mentioned anything like that before. However, now based on multiple reports from multiple intelligence services, from intelligence services under Biden, from like the American intelligence, there has been no indication that there is going to be imminent use of nuclear weapons so far. Right. And here's the thing, we're going to know if they're preparing to use nuclear weapons because they're scattered in different places, and you have to move them and you have to arrange them and you have to do these things. It's like you can't do that unexpectedly. Like, it's going to be something that we are going to know about, and we're going to know about it beforehand. So it's not something that's just like a one and done kind of thing. And like, oops, we didn't know. No, like there is movement. They need to be assembled. Like British and American intelligence will know. So yeah, so it's a bit of a, it's a bit of like a shitty way to put this, because he is making it sound like it's confirmed, and he's making it sound like, oh, there is an imminent threat of this. But realistically, if we are looking at the reports, if we're looking at data, there hasn't been anything that indicated any like shift or any change in that environment. Carson is asking, night vision sets are still a topic. No, well, I mean, they are, but we have already raised all of the money necessary, and it's already in motion. So we do. So in the case of my particular fundraiser, it's not a topic anymore, because we have gotten enough for 4 of them, actually, because so here's the thing, we were going to buy 3 because we were going to buy like the newest version. And then I've spoken to the people who actually deal with this stuff daily, and they said that newest version is only $1,000 more expensive, because it has like one function that is additional that the older version doesn't have, but that function is like redundant for what these night vision devices are needed for. So it's just like $1,000 of waste of money. So that's the update. I will give you an update the second that they are on the front lines. It's not as easy as it seems. I will give you all of the updates and all of the charitable things as soon as possible. I'm really sorry, because like I'm taking up much more than I can handle in terms of like, follow through with information and stuff like that. Because as I said, and I'm like not joking when I say this, and I'm not like trying to ask for, I'm not trying to say this for you to be like, oh my gosh, poor Yulia. No, but I am just so incredibly busy that I think that in the next couple of in the next month or so, at least, if there is like any fundraiser or something like that, I'm just going to promote a fundraiser from a specific organization or something like that I trust, because I genuinely, I don't have enough resource as a human being to keep up with everything. I don't have enough resource to keep up with, oh, this is the stage at which this is, and here is a video for you to see that this is happening. I also, frankly, I don't even have enough, like, I just don't, thing is, there is not enough me and there is not enough hours in a day. And I'm trying to like figure out a way of doing all of the stuff that I am doing with also like having a better structure to it. So, you know, I'm not going to be doing like random fundraisers anymore, as in like, oh, this is the necessity. This is what we need to like, this is what we need to like raise money for. If I'm going to do a fundraiser, I'm going to team up with an organization that I really like, that I've vetted and stuff like that. And I'm just going to direct you there, because it's going to be much easier if I don't have to partake in like, you know, if I don't have to directly partake in like getting things from point A to point B, unless they can't, because it just adds a lot of behind the scenes work that I at this point in this channel's development just simply don't have time to do anymore. And I am following through, and I am finishing and wrapping up all of these projects that I have like left over from before, right? Because I obviously want the best possible outcome for them, but I'm realizing that I'm not going to be able to do anything like that in the future, most likely, unless like, you know, it's something very simple. Yeah. And so basically there's just going to be a lot of like restructuring done to all of this. And the thing is, like, you know, my channels are practically not monetized, so it's not like I can hire a team to help me. YouTube still, it's been over a month, and it should take less than a month for them to monetize me. It's been a month and like, it's been a month and some days. They still haven't responded to my monetization request, although their guidelines say under 1 month. I've reached out to them on multiple occasions, and they said, well, sometimes it takes longer than that. And I will be like, oh, how much longer? And they're just like, oh, well, we don't know, just longer. And so they're giving me very big responses. They're not like responding to it. And the thing is that like this channel is growing with the speed of light. And I mean like growing with the amount of stuff that I'm doing for this channel, and with the amount of information I'm able to provide, and with the amount of things that I need to do. But it's not growing in terms of the fact that like I need soon to be able to monetize at least my YouTube, so I can hire people to help me with it, because I don't feel right like making my moderators help me, you know, 24/7 with like a full-time gig without payment, even though they have been so nice and so generous with their time. But the thing is that like, you know, it's growing beyond my means, and I am trying my best to like keep it afloat and keep up with it. But again, it's growing out of proportion that I can handle. So that is also one of the things that I am handling behind the scenes, that I'm trying to like figure out for you guys and for me. So, you know, there is accountability for everything, and you are informed on every single thing that's happening, without me literally wanting to bang my head on the wall because I don't have time, you know. Like there is a whole thing with the coasters. There's a whole thing with the coasters. I just received an email about the coasters because I'm understanding that most of you still haven't received them, and I need to go to the post office because my post office is garbage. And I'm sorry for saying that, but I literally live near the most garbage post office branch in America that takes like years and years and years to send things out. I have tracking on a receipt from the post office, and that receipt is somewhere in a bag of one of my bags. I need to locate that receipt in order to go into tracking and give you tracking, and to figure out what happened with these coasters. Now, I know that I have the receipt. I'm aware I have it. I never throw them out. I just need to find it. And the problem is that I can't find it right now, not because I can't find it, but because the second that I get off of here, I'm going to have to go edit the Tork video. And after I edit the Tork video, I'm going to have to record a voiceover. And after that, I'm going to have to do the transcript for the next video so I can release them on time. And those transcripts take hours. I'm not even gonna start going into how many things I need to do. And I don't want you guys to think that I'm like trying to scam you for money, or I'm not trying to like send you things that like, you know, like bot or something like that. I'm so sorry, but I'm incredibly disorganized simply because I just don't have enough hands and I don't have enough time. And that is my fault. And that's something that I put on myself. And I should have been more like I should have like delegated these responsibilities better, and I should have done things in a more like organized fashion. But that's the whole problem, where like I need more organization, but unfortunately organization costs money at this point in time, because it's employees, and I don't have an ability to have employees, neither do I have an ability to go with that. So I am trying very actively to figure out how to combat that. And so there is that. I'm so very sorry if you messaged me and I haven't responded yet. I'm so very sorry if you DM'd me and I haven't responded yet. I'm so very sorry if you submitted an inquiry and I haven't responded yet. I most likely haven't even seen it because I just, especially in this past like 2 weeks, I've been feeling like a hamster in a wheel because it's nonstop. And yeah. So yes, there is that. Okay. Okay. There is that. And yeah, but anyways, let me continue with the topic we were talking on. Okay. Since September 21st, the armed forces of Ukraine have liberated 122 settlements. Thank you so much. In the east, north, and south of Ukraine. Deputy Chief of the Main Operational Directorate of the General Staff, Alexei Hromov. Missile attack on a civilian convoy in the Kherson region this morning. A bus came under fire, 4 dead, 3 wounded. This happened in the occupied territory in the area of the Daryevsky Bridge across the Inholets River between Kherson and Novakhovka, local media reports. Russia tried to order 200,000 bulletproof vests and 500,000 sets of winter clothing through the third countries, but was refused by Turkey. This was announced by Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov today. The occupiers shelled the city and hit the courtyard of a high-rise building in Zaporizhzhia again. That is as of 5:08 a.m. our time, so about noon Ukraine. The United States can launch a nuclear strike on Russia, including Moscow, if the Russian Federation uses nuclear weapons. According to The Sun, there are 4 scenarios for how the US and NATO might respond to Russia's use of nuclear weapons. Retaliatory strike against the Russian Federation, including Moscow. Strike on Russian troops on the front line in Ukraine. Limited nuclear strike on Crimea. Strike on the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation. So those are the possible scenarios. Now here is a video that I want to show you. The caption to this video is "The incredible beauty of the native land and the indescribable pain of its destruction." So that is what it is. Also, speaking of trying to be a little more on top of things, today, tomorrow actually. I'm not going to say today because I don't want to say that. Tomorrow, I'm going to pick the winner of the stamp on Patreon, and I will let you know, and I will probably send Vasil to ship it if he is going to be okay with that, because honestly, I'm not going to be able to. But yes, so I'm also going to figure things out like that. I might actually develop like a better strategy in terms of maybe housing all of these things in like some the things that are supposed to be shipped out and sold and stuff like that. I am going to try and like maybe have with someone who is less busy than I am that I can ask to just ship them out whenever I send them a message or something like that. Maybe that will be much easier and much better and much more cohesive. So let's do that. Oh. Okay, anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I'm working on it. I'm working on being better at it. Yeah, I think this one is it. I remember the mic. No worries. Ukraine is a huge country. Yes, sorry. Oh my gosh. Come on. Ukraine is a huge country. Yes. It's a very, very... Thank you, Angela. Obrigada. Ukraine is a huge country. Yes, it's population 45 million, and it's the biggest by area country in Europe, if we don't count Russia as Europe. So there we go. Iranian drones will not help the Russian Federation turn the tide of the war, as Ukraine did with HIMARS, Institute of the Study of War reports. The Russian army does not seem to be trying to asymmetrically concentrate the strikes on these drones on key points near the front. They launched a lot of drones at civilian targets in the rear, probably hoping to achieve a nonlinear effect through terror, but these actions do not bring success, experts say. Earlier, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that in total, Russian troops used 86 Iranian Shahed 136 drones against Ukraine, 60% of which were destroyed. Norway will restrict the passage of Russian fishing vessels to its ports. They will only be able to enter 3 specific ports. In the 7 full months since the start of the large-scale war, almost all NATO and EU countries have somehow joined the assistance program in the training of Ukrainian fighters, said Ukrainian Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov. Japan has imposed sanctions on 80 Russians and 9 Russian organizations, the country's finance ministry said. According to the document, 23 people were included in the sanctions list due to Russia's annexation of Ukrainian territories. Among others, the following relatives were sanctioned: Prime Minister of the Russian Federation, Mikhail Mishustin, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, Deputy Chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Medvedev, Head of the Chechen Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov, representatives of the Russian Air Force and the National Guard. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan will have a telephone conversation with Vladimir Putin on October 7th, Anadolu writes. According to the president of Turkey, he wants to discuss with the head of the aggressor country the supply of grain and fertilizers, as well as the exchange of prisoners. Erdogan said Russian fertilizers could be shipped through Turkey to countries that need them, and the continuation of the export of Ukrainian grain, according to the president of Turkey, will serve the interest of the people of Ukraine, Europe, and the whole world. Hi, Jason. I also just saw your message and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. I was about to respond, but then the video ended. 2 Russian citizens swam across the Bering Strait to escape mobilization, Bloomberg and other agencies. They left the village of Yevgekinot in Chukotka by boat, and after covering a distance of 500 kilometers, reached the coast of Alaska. The Russians turned to the U.S. authorities with a request to grant them political asylum. Well, mobilization does not grant political asylum. You're not under threat from your government. And what those people should have done is they should have, instead of fleeing like Russians do, organized resistance. There have been more than 700,000 Russians who have fled Russia since the beginning of the full-scale mobilization. If they haven't fled but came out on the Red Square and protested against the regime and mobilization and the war, then they could have changed their country forever and could have caused something that would guarantee them a brighter future. Instead, they flee. 73% of Americans believe that the U.S. should continue to support Ukraine despite Russian threats to use nuclear weapons, according to Reuters. In a similar poll in August, only 51% were willing to continue arms deliveries, so the support has grown. A man from Putin's inner circle complained to the dictator about his actions in the war against Ukraine, according to the Washington Post. The publication reports that, according to U.S. intelligence, a person from the inner circle considered the management of military operations ineffective and pointed out the mistakes made by the leader of the military campaign. Criticism of this kind is the clearest indication of the confusion in the Russian leadership over the issue of war, which led to disastrous setbacks for Moscow and forced Putin to call for mobilization. Near the liberated Liman, the headquarters of the occupiers with important documentation was found. Lists of prisoners and those illegally arrested were found in the building. Among other things, documents containing the data of persons and profiles of candidates for positions who decided to work for the occupiers and the captured enterprises and organizations were seized. The car market of the Russian Federation for 3 quarters fell by 60%. An opinion from the Prime Minister of Finland, Sanna Marin. Again, I love this woman, and she is absolutely the best. And honestly, like, she's my new female crush.
Conflict. Thank you.
There she is. Wait, 1 second. Sorry, it's gonna play again.
Way out of the conflict. Way out of the conflict. The way out of the conflict is for Russia to leave Ukraine. That's the way out of the conflict. Thank you.
She is a rock star. She is an absolute rock star, and I love her so much, and she's amazing, and she really doesn't like hold back, and she says things the way she thinks them. 19 Ukrainian servicemen are being instructed on the use of the Apside Skyguard anti-aircraft system. The Ukrainian military is expected to arrive in Spain on November 1st. Now, here is a Ukraine Now episode. You guys know I absolutely love them, that I want to show to you. So bear with me for a second. I am going to wait for it to upload, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you in a second. Oh, wow, this is uploading for a while now, and it's taking its sweet time. So I'm going to read you the description then, so you have an idea. The hidden attitudes that shape Russia's public actions and decisions show that direct dialogue with Russia is a waste of time at any level. But uncovering the basis of their thinking to Europe, which is slowly and somewhat letting go of the great Russian culture, is quite a feasible task. In the video, we try to break down the main features of the Russian mindset and national culture, and why Russians fundamentally do not understand Ukrainians. That is a very important video, and I usually trust, I haven't seen it, but I usually trust Ukraine Now to break down everything that I say in a very good way, because we often have very similar ideas, and most of the time I do stand by everything they say, because they happen to have a very similar opinion to mine. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to aim it at the iPad, and you guys are going to be able to see it. I'm going to move it backwards a little bit so you guys have more space. And here we go. Okay, so as you know, I find these incredibly educational. I think they break down all the important points very well. So I hope you do too, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. But yeah, so that's the video. Let me know what you think. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel. And also, you know, that clip of the woman saying that she's against the war, and she's saying, do you want to end up like me? You know, she's not saying, do you want to end up killing Ukrainians? She's saying, do you want to end up disabled? So it's not a protest against the war. It's a protest against mobilization. And that's one of the things that Russians, for some reason, can't seem to see the difference in. They can't seem to see that them protesting against mobilization is not them protesting against the war in Ukraine. It does not carry the same meaning. It does not have the same connotation. Those are two very different things. Ukrainian Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov, oh, hi, Scott, met with the head of the German Parliamentary Committee of Defense, Marie-Agnes Strack-Zimmermann. I had a warm and friendly conversation with our Bundestag partner, Marie-Agnes Strack-Zimmermann, head of the Defense Committee. I look forward to a productive discussion that will bring practical results, including a commitment to strengthen Ukraine's air defense, Reznikov said on Twitter. Hi, Chris. Ukraine officially recognizes Russian occupation of the Kuril Islands. The decision was supported by 287 people's deputies. The Verkhovna Rada also called on the international community to continue taking measures on the legal status of the northern territories of Japan. Estonia is preparing a new military aid package for Ukraine with ammunition and winter gear, Prime Minister Kaja Kallas, before an informational meeting of EU leaders in Prague. Self-proclaimed president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, presented Russian President Vladimir Putin with a Belarus tractor for his 70th birthday. Lukashenko flew to Putin in St. Petersburg for the summit. At the entrance to the palace, journalists asked him what gift he had prepared for Putin's birthday, to which he replied, "A tractor. The one I work on is Belarus. The best hand-assembled, will sow bread, will grow it, and take it to Europe so they don't starve. Don't steal bread from Ukraine, but take it to poor countries." So this is an incredibly thoughtful present from Lukashenko to Putin, you know, because they really together want to work on bringing bread to Europe. You know, I think the problem, I think they don't understand the problem here to begin with, because the bread needs to be brought to the nations that are facing starvation, like a lot of African nations, you know, on the continent of Africa. I think that that's more prudent to bring bread to them. But, you know, I mean, good thinking, yes. The one thing that you can start doing to not starve the nations instead of developing a Belarusian tractor is to maybe get the F out of Ukraine and stop burning our grain. Maybe stop stealing it, and maybe stop blocking ships. That'll solve it. And you won't have to hand-build a hand-assembled tractor. You know? Also, your one tractor is really not going to fix anything. Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs Hossein Amir Abdullahian said that Tehran did not provide Russia with any weapons for use in the war against Ukraine, and insisted on the need for a political resolution of the conflict. Yeah, right. So those Iranian Shahed drones they just migrated by themselves to Russia. Do they have artificial intelligence? Did they rebel? Are we seeing iRobot in reality, where the drones just collected a mind of their own and joined the Russians in the aggression against Ukraine? Because otherwise, how the F did they end up in the battlefield? The Ukrainian IT army hacked the website of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, or CSTO, the Russian-led version of NATO, and wished Putin a comfortable trip to The Hague. It quite literally says, Ukrainian IT army, Ukrainian IT army speaking, "We would like to congratulate Putin with his last birthday and to wish him a comfortable trip to Gaga." The Kremlin has allowed state media to sometimes tell the truth about defeats in the war in Ukraine because of suspicions among Russians, Bloomberg writes. At the same time, critics should not go too far and have no right to doubt Putin's decisions to launch a full-scale invasion and his competence. The Kremlin hopes that a little noise can help strengthen public support. Yes, for sure, especially, when your propagandists start actually directly telling everybody that you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and especially when your propagandists go off the script and start saying that they're very much losing and Ukraine is very, very much winning, and that your weapons are garbage and old and Ukraine has modern weapons, and then at the end of this whole tirade they go into but chill out here, it's because we're fighting NATO. Yes, that will for sure increase the support. Russia's international reserves fell by almost 25 billion in a month, the Central Bank of Russian Federation reports. The first rotation of representatives of the IAEA mission who stayed there for more than a month took place at the Zaporizhzhia NPP, agency's Director General Grossi. According to him, the new team is already at the plant. On the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the Russian president, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Estonia, Urmas Reinsalu, called for the establishment of a special tribunal for Russian crimes in Ukraine, wishing Putin to celebrate his next birthday behind the bars. The EU will create a fund of 100 million euros, which will allow Ukraine to purchase weapons in Europe, French President Macron at the summit in Prague. The Ukrainian military has liberated the village of Podole in the Kupiansk district, Kharkiv region, said Konstantin Nemichev, chief of staff of the Kraken regiment. The village is located near Kupiansk, which had been liberated earlier. So Kraken is another regiment similar to Azov. It's similar to the right sector. It's similar to other regiments. Yet I do not see people referring to this regiment as a far-right regiment. A lot of former Azov servicemen are serving in Kraken. And so I'm very curious as to why Kraken is not worldwide considered to be a neo-Nazi white supremacist organization, but it's always referred to as the Kraken Regiment or the Kraken Unit. Kraken actually is a monster. Kraken is like, Kraken, the word means like a specific type of monster. And no one calls them members, they're always men. So here is another proof for you that it's just propaganda about Azov, because again, a lot of former Azov serve in Kraken. And it's very interesting that they wouldn't label them as white supremacist militia because, that a lot of Azov servicemen are now in Kraken. So how are they not a white supremacy militia? So interesting, isn't it? The number of people who fled the Russian Federation after the announcement of the partial mobilization of the military reached more than 550,000. Most of them are men. Ambassador of Indonesia to the United Arab Emirates, Hussein Bagis, said in an interview with The National that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian leader Vladimir Putin had agreed to attend the G20 summit in Indonesia in November. At the same time, the press secretary of the president of Ukraine, Serhiy Nikiforov, noted that the final decision on this issue has not yet been made. During the week, the Ukrainian military liberated 29 settlements in the east, including 6 in the Lugansk region, President Zelensky. According to him, since the beginning of the offensive operation, Ukraine has returned 96 settlements under occupation. Netlin on TikTok is asking, are there BIPOC groups in Ukraine? In what sense? What do you mean? Like as in the military, as in the government, just like social organizations, like grassroots movements? In what way are you asking that? The 2023 Eurovision Song Contest will be held in Liverpool, England. This year, the Ukrainian Center for Civil Liberties, the Belarusian activist Oleg Bilatsky, and the Russian Memorial received the Nobel Peace Prize. I want to say hello to my son Oleg. I love him very much. And we are all here for those we love. Greetings from the front lines, from our brave soldiers to those who await them greatly. After all, with family and friends on the home front, each of our defenders knows to whom they can sacrifice their lives. So 1 second, I will upload this video and I will show it to you on full screen. It's from Ukraine now, but it's more like a, it's a more video. I love those two because it just basically shows you what the Ukrainian military is accomplishing, what they're doing, and how they're fighting. So there is that. Give me 1 second. As you know, my gosh. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is with Windows closed. I've received that question a lot of times, and I'm going to answer it before I get it again. Okay, boom.
Доброго дня, я приїхав з Вінниці захистити нашу Україну, захистити наших жінок, наших дітей, наших побратимів, за вільну Україну, щоб наша Україна була, наша Україна сама достойна армія, сама сильна армія. І я хочу передати своїм дітям, самі менші дочці, я їду і люблю крепко, жінку і своїх старших дітей. Вони мене розуміють. Слава Україні!
Я хочу передати привіт своєму сину Олегу, я його дуже люблю. Мы все тут за дыхом любим.
Доченька любимая, папа скоро вернется с победой. Я тебя очень люблю, передаю тебе привет. У нас все хорошо. Україна чекає нас перемогою. Перемога за нами. Слава Україні! Героям слава! Все буде добре. Люблю вас, кохаю, цілую, обнімаю рідні.
Поки ми тут, з вами можете спати спокійно.
Мамі, татові привіт, дружині, сину, другу сину, що теж захищає нашу Україну.
So yes, I remembered the microphone. Gosh, guys, I'm trying to establish that I'm already, anytime I forget to unmute, I mute the microphone on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Anytime I show the videos, because otherwise it has an echo, right? And at first I kept forgetting to unmute the microphone. And now I feel like I have a PTSD reaction. I'm trying to develop a habit of muting and unmuting it every time. And now anytime I do not unmute the microphone right that second, and I say a word before I unmute it, I know there is going to be a wall of text saying Mike, 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 Mike. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, please stop. I unmuted it. I'm learning. I do appreciate the reminders, though. I just know that, I receive them later than you guys send them. So I feel like anytime I will look away and then I look back and there's just a wall of mic text. And I'm trying. Anyways, okay. So here is a very fun video from Ukrainian, soldiers that use TikTok. So there is that. And this is part 2 to the video that you might have seen of the Ukrainian troops cleaning the cars, and basically to this song. And at the end they say, I think we win this trend. And so this is a fun part 2 to this, when they're cleaning tanks. And I thought it was hilarious, and I thought it was a very good sort of video. Okay, let's see what Kyiv Independent has to say today, because I've run out of news on my normal news source. And as you know, we really like to sum up everything that happened through Kyiv Independent, because it's just short bullet points. Some of the information is going to be new, and some of the information is going to sum up everything that we've talked about today. Okay. Biden says danger of nuclear Armageddon, highest since Cuban Missile Crisis. My personal comment, effectively fear-mongering the world, because if you look at the official reports of all intelligence services in the world, it doesn't, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Netlin. It does not indicate, they do not indicate in any capacity that there is any threat as of right now. The threat is verbal. It is not, at least right now, backed up by any evidence. It is just a verbal threat. Police, 534 bodies of civilians have been found in the Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you, James. There's that like cute new little corgis, and James just sent me a corgi right after Netlin sent me a corgi. Those are like little animations on TikTok for those of you who don't know, and they're so cute. And I'm waiting for the day that they release one of a French bulldog, because this is the only place Cindy is underrepresented. She's overrepresented on every street of New York. And I see so many French bulldogs that sometimes I get tired of French bulldogs, but TikTok is the only place where there is no representation of French bulldogs. And, I'm personally offended. Okay, so police says that 534 bodies of civilians have been found in liberated Kharkiv Oblast. Russia's attacks killed 2 in Donetsk Oblast, injure 8 in Kharkiv Oblast. UK intelligence says more than half of Ukraine's tank fleet consists of captured Russian vehicles. Macron says EU to provide Ukraine with more military gear and French howitzers. Japan imposes new sanctions against Russia and its proxies. Ukrainian think tank receives Nobel Peace Prize, splits it with Russian organization and Belarusian activist. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has awarded the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize to the Ukrainian Human Rights Organization Center for Civil Liberties, which has been identifying and documenting Russia's war crimes against civilians. The Center for Civil Liberties split the Nobel Peace Prize with the human rights advocate Ales Bialyatsky from Belarus and the Russian human rights organization Memorial. Media. Putin no longer tells ministers about his plans, faces criticism in inner circles. Power Lines from Ukraine to the World, Episode 2, History and Context, has aired. Power Lines is a podcast from the Kyiv Independent that you can find on all preferred platforms such as Apple Music and Spotify, and you can listen to it and get a little more context on the history of Ukraine on the days that I'm off, obviously, or on the days that I'm a little too busy and you guys are starving for more information, because I'm not releasing TikTok videos. This is probably the most self-jerking statement I've ever said, but let me bask in it for a second. So here is the synopsis of the new episode. Ukrainian history is defined by struggles for power. It has been the battleground of empires, defined by foreign domination, especially in the 20th century, when Nazi and Stalinist forces sought to dominate and strangle the country for its resources. The parallels with today are stark. In episode 2 of our podcast, Power Lines from Ukraine to the World, co-produced with Message Heard, the Kyiv Independent team speaks to Ukrainian historian and writer Olesya Khromaychuk to discuss what Ukraine's fractious, complicated, and significant history in the century before the fall of the Soviet Union can tell us about its modern identity and the reason behind the war. They also speak to Alyona Zhuk, an evacuated Ukrainian tattoo artist and illustrator, about passing down history to the next generation. Ukraine's IT services export 16% up in 2022. Let me remind you, Russia used to be the IT hub of outsourcing in Europe. And now Ukraine has actually taken the spotlight from Russia starting in, I believe, 2018. And now Ukraine has the largest amount of employed IT specialists in Europe. And Lviv, where yours truly is from, is actually the IT center of Ukraine. Parliament approves Andriy Pushny as Ukraine's new central bank chief. Iran claims it never supplied kamikaze drones to Russia. Ukraine to ask UN, EU countries to set up international tribunal for Russian crimes. Podolyak criticizes splitting of Nobel Peace Prize with Russian Belarusian nominees. Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to the president's office, said the Norwegian Nobel Committee has an interesting understanding of the world peace if it split the award with 2 countries that have attacked Ukraine. Neither Russian nor Belarusian organizations were able to oppose this war, he said. The 2022 Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to the Ukrainian Human Rights Organization Center for Civil Liberties, Belarusian human rights advocate Ales Bialyatsky, and the Russian human rights organization Memorial. There is absolutely no reason why a Russian human rights organization would be getting a Nobel Peace Prize, because that human rights organization did not do anything to protect Ukrainian human rights, while the Ukrainian organization is doing everything to protect the human rights of absolutely everyone right now. Update. Death toll of Russian October 6th strike on Zaporizhzhia rises to 12. Official. Ukraine's military has liberated over 2,400 square kilometers in Kherson Oblast. SBU charges 26 collaborators with treason for organizing sham referendums in Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast. Russian forces shelled Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, killing civilians. Nova Poshta opens its first branch abroad. Ukrainian privately owned postal service Nova Poshta, which has over 9,300 branches across Ukraine, has opened its first foreign branch in Warsaw, Poland. The company expects to add 4 Polish cities to its roster by the end of the month: Krakow, Wrocław, Rzeszów, and Poznań. Financial Times says Ukraine troops report Starlink outages, hindering counteroffensive. Ukrainian troops have encountered issues with their Starlink communication devices on the front line, leading to a catastrophic loss in communication, reports the Financial Times, citing unnamed Ukrainian officials. The outages were reported in eastern and southern Ukraine, especially in Russian-occupied parts, where Kyiv is conducting its counteroffensive. And those outages come literally quite after Elon Musk's pro-Russian statements and counter-Ukrainian statements. But, I'm not going to speculate anything. I'm not going to say that, it's his fault or there is some sort of like counter meaning behind it, but it's just very, very odd timing. And it's only in the Russian occupied territories. Macron, France creates 100 million euro fund for Ukraine to purchase weapons. Update. Death toll of Russians' October 6th strike on Zaporizhzhia rises to 14. CNN says, Pentagon says Putin has not made decision on nuclear weapons. Ukraine's military says kamikaze drones arrive in Belarus. Zelensky says IMF executive board approves 1.3 billion package. Zaporizhzhia responds to Russia's annexation claims. We have broken up with Russia forever. They can sing out whatever they want on their red square, says Zaporizhzhia resident Alyona Ivanova. Zaporizhzhia is Ukraine. Zaporizhzhia Oblast is Ukraine. Von der Leyen says Ukraine to receive 2 billion euros of macro-financial assistance. Zelensky said Ukraine's military has liberated 776 square kilometers over the past week. How likely is Putin to nuke Ukraine? Is a new article on Kyiv Independent that I am going to attach to the description of this video if you'd like to read it. As Putin's war of conquest in Ukraine is failing, he's again trying to use the nuclear card against Ukraine and the West, and he's reassuring the world that this is not a bluff. But how likely is Putin to walk the walk? And I think it is a very pertinent question right now. And let me attach this this article to the description of the podcast today. You guys can conveniently access it. That is the last thing that I have for today from both Kyiv Independent and other news sources. I do want to let you know that again, or rather I would like to point out again that speaking of reading and writing, I have started a Medium, which is a platform on which independent journalists, anyone really, people can buy people can write articles, and people can write articles that are longer than just Twitter blurbs. So I decided to try my hand at it as you know, I have a lot to say. And the first article had already come out, and it's about Azov. And the next article is going to come out probably this weekend, and it's my thoughts on why the West is so receptive to Russian propaganda and why we have such a hard time differentiating it from reality, right? Not saying everybody, but I'm saying like quite a few people still do in the West. And so my Medium is yulia.medium.com. It's the same as everywhere. You can just simply look up Yulia when you go on Medium, and it's going to show me. I'm going to demonstrate to you again what it looks like, because, you know, I'm a bit proud of starting another thing. And that is my yet another way of trying to communicate my thoughts and add into the information space of this channel. Hopefully it's going to be well received, and hopefully it's useful. Because first of all, I am very insecure about my writing, because I'm not a writer. I never considered myself to be a good writer or a decent writer or a writer to begin with. So, you know, this is sort of like, this took me quite a bit of self-confidence and like confidence talks to sort of to share this publicly. But yeah, this is my little write-up. I also am very excited because I get to have some more creativity designing thumbnails. This is my profile, and I'm still working on designing it well, because you guys know how important design of things is for me. But yeah, this is basically what it is. And this is what it looks like. So if you're interested in reading some blurbs that are going to come out probably weekly, or if I feel like it, maybe more often, but I'm not going to promise more than one blurb a week, because again, it depends on my time availability on that given week. And I don't know. It also depends on how many voiceovers for History Briefly Zelensky decides he wants that week, because, you know, those are usually the source of a lot of time spent, which I love and I'm super excited about. But also depends on how many people agree to be interviewed by me as well. But yeah, so there is that. And you guys, I'm so very happy that you stuck around. If you have any questions, this is the time to submit them. And I will stick around for another 5 to 10 minutes. Then I need to go walk the beast, and I need to go get myself some dinner, or make myself some dinner. And then I need to deep dive into editing the video so I can have it out for you by midnight tonight. Okay, so that is what it is. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, please follow me on Twitter. I am very active there, and I do voice my opinions there as well. Medium is the new medium that I'm trying to master. And also, if you would like to, please support me on Patreon. As you know, every one of your contributions goes a very long way, and I really appreciate it. My Patreon is Spy News Network International, INTL, which stands for International. It is in my link in bio on all vertical platforms, and it is in my About section and all horizontal ones. On Medium, there is also like a direct link to it as well. And also I do release quotes from Tork's interviews way before, like extended quotes way before the interviews come out, so you guys have a little bit of a sneak peek. And I try to bring you as many interesting raffles and details as possible. So there is that, and I hope you enjoy it. Alrighty, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have any questions. And let me know if you have any suggestions, or if you'd like to discuss anything. Facts are recently proven to be real. Because the squid can get 60 feet long versus a 30-foot wooden boat. I can see why the myth exists. I'm just about to check my lotto. Your Patreon might be good tomorrow. Oh, hi, bartender. Hello, friendly neighborhood bartender. But yes. I have a question. Why don't you take a break from news so you can catch up? You need to care. Because here's the thing, like Tammy's asking, why don't you take a break from news so you can catch up? Because I feel like when I do take the break from news, I actually get more backed up, and I do take care of myself. I am going to do Sundays off now. I am going to do like short videos, short video summaries on YouTube on Sundays instead of a live. And I am going to like integrate more. So here's the thing. I used to feel like I'm not doing enough and I'm not releasing enough information. And so I would have to do news every day, right? But because lately I've actually been very overwhelmed with the amount of like very interesting information that I think is incredibly important to get out there, that I feel like compensates for, you know, maybe skipping a day of lives or something. But I think that now I'm focusing a lot more on things that we can just get from Telegram sources and stuff like that. So I'm going to be reformatting my schedule a little bit, and I'm going to be integrating all of the newly added like work on top of the work that I already do, and I'm going to figure it out, but that requires time. And for now, I'm okay doing daily news, and I want to be doing daily news because it helps me catch up on the news too, and it helps me sort of stay, stay current, stay on track, and stay. It also helps me feel better when I'm able to discuss the news with so many, smart and amazing and supportive people than if I just read it by myself. So there's that. And I do like doing the news every day, and I feel like something's missing if I don't. So I actually feel much worse if I don't do the news. But yeah. It's awesome. Been painting scenery in the theater. Oh, that's amazing. Hi, Raven. But yeah. Alrighty, guys. So if you don't have any other questions, I am going to see you tomorrow, and you're hopefully going to see the video either tonight before midnight or after. We will see. But thank you so much for being here, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.